Hey, what's up guys, it's Consumer talking to you here, and today let's talk about the M1X chip and the M2 chip timeline and what's next for the Apple Silicon roadmap. But before we start, roll the intro. The first chip I think we're going to get is the M1X chip. I think that Apple will replace their current Intel machines like the 16-inch and the 13-inch high-end Mac Pros, or even the iMac 27-inch with the Mac Mini Intel 2, be replaced on October, together with, I don't know, maybe another refreshed MacBook 13-inch with the same redesign, but we don't know yet. But in October we are expecting new Apple Silicon, more likely the M1X chip, not the M2. The M2 will be reserved for later. But to focus on the M1 chip, this new chip will feature 10 cores, like I've talked about in other videos, with 8 performance cores and 2 high efficiency cores. This is so because Apple wants to make like a modular chip, so they can build 2 or 3 or 4 together and make more powerful chips for other machines like this 27-inch iMac and the Mac Pro. But the M1X chip will be featured on an October event, not September, like DigiTimes or Economic Daily News has said, because Apple won't launch the M1X chip together with the iPhone. That doesn't make any sense, and I believe that in October we will see new Apple Silicon. That 1 year after they released the M1 chip, which was incredible, and the 1 year later they will release and redesign the 16-inch MacBook Pro, the 14-inch MacBook Pro. They'll probably redesign the M1X Mac Mini, and the M1X iMac will probably be released in, I don't know, January, March timeline, but a little bit before, so probably 6 months later, like they did last year. So it's very interesting to look at the fact that the M1X chip will be an extension of the M1, which in part is an extension of the A14. So Apple will release the M1X chip, an A14 derived chip, after they released the A15 with a 5nm plus architecture. So they will use a later and an older architecture on the M1X. Or they could just make an M1X chip which is based on the A15. We are not sure, but it's something I will not be 100% sure until Apple releases it. It's a possibility. I think it would be incredible if they used the A15 hardware, because I mean, they have a newer one. Why don't use it on a $2,000, $3,000 computer? That doesn't make any sense. But as you know, I think the chip development has been already done for, I think, this month in July. So I don't think it's probable Apple use the A15 architecture, but more likely the A14, which is quite sad because we are skipping power that we could be used, and we are leaving on the table more power and more efficiency than last time. Let's say that way. But the M1X chip will come, in my opinion, in October with a lot of new hardware that we are very excited about, which is a prosumer hardware, and prosumer market is waiting for to get new computers and ditch Intel for good. But the M2 chip will be not featured in October like leaks were saying because of this delay of the M1X. So we'll probably see the M2 chip coming in March or April timeline, like we got the M1 iMac this year. So in my opinion, we'll get the M2 chip together with a redesigned MacBook Air and a redesigned little one on the 13-inch MacBook Pro. So probably we'll get this same squared off design that we will get on October for the Pro 14 and 16-inch. We'll get it on the 13-inch with the M1. So the M1 devices will get the M2, all of them, the Mac Mini, the M2 MacBook Air and the M2 MacBook Pro. So these devices will get even more power efficiency and better high efficiency cores and better high performance cores. So a little bit jump. It will get on the 9th generation ARM architecture, so like I said, better efficiency and better performance. But we are not expecting M2 iMac. I will not expect an M2 iMac on April, probably because Apple wants to release those in separate times like we saw the M1, or maybe that's because the M1 was a redesign, so we got them on different times. I don't know, let's see, but it's possible that they released the M2 iMac 1 year later after they released the M1 iMac. But that's what makes sense to me. 6 months after they released the M1X, they released the M2, and then they stick by that timeline again. In June, they will release the Mac Pro with the modular M1X, or the M1Z, like you want to call it, and the 27-inch iMac or the iMac Pro, we don't know yet. So in April, we are expecting the redesigned M2 MacBook Air, and I have a video on that here, and a not redesigned MacBook Pro, and the same Mac Mini that we had last year. I don't know if they will redesign the Mac Mini to couple it with the most updated redesign that we will get on the M1X architecture, but it's probably adopted because they want parity on the factory lines, just substituting the M2 with the M1X, because the M2 is cheaper to make. So it's interesting to see what's the Apple roadmap for the future. I believe, in my opinion, we will get after, I don't know, 6 months later or every year we will get the M2 chip. So I think Apple will release the M2 chip together with all the iPads. So they will release the Mac and then a little bit later the iPad Pro with the M2. So, and the year next they will get the M3 and the M4 and so successively. So in my opinion, Apple will update the Mac chip line, and the Apple Silicon roadmap would be a yearly upgrade like the iPhone it is. So if you are expecting for the M1X, don't wait much longer. In October, we will get what we want, which is new hardware and the 16-inch and 14-inch MacBook Pros with the M1X chip. But if you are troubled with the decision that should I wait for the M2 or should I get the M1 now, in my opinion, get the M1 now. It's very powerful chip. The M2 will be an incremental upgrade, and it's coming not in October like leakers were saying before, but in March or April. So the M1 right now is the perfect device still for you, but closer to September you have to analyze options, because if you want to buy an M1, then are you able to spend $500 to $600 more and get a much better computer, which is the 14-inch MacBook Pro? But that's my opinion. I don't know what's your budget, I don't know what's your priorities. So in my opinion, I would get a 16-inch. It's the best computer overall, but I have the money right now, I have the budget, and I have the willpower to buy it. But if you don't have the budget for it, I believe the M1 MacBook Air is the perfect laptop for you, and the M1 Mac Mini is the best Apple computer for you right now in terms of price to quality and performance. So what are your opinions on this new Apple Silicon roadmap, the updated one, because of these delays of the semiconductor unavailability that has been hit the market lately and has delayed every product? I don't know. What's your opinion? Don't forget to leave a comment down below with your opinion. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I have the links down below. And this was Tex More talking to you here. Bye.